So if you're curious as to what is on an Army installation, stick around. That's what I'm explaining in this video. What's up, friends? Welcome to another video, and in this video we're talking about what is actually on an Army installation. Of course, probably some of you have maybe been on one, but for those of you that have not, well, I'll give you a little bit of a breakdown. I know when I was still a civilian, before I was in the Army, I didn't know what to expect. Maybe it was going to be a bunch of military vehicles, just a bunch of barracks, and a lot of people marching all over the place. Well, it's not quite like that. I mean, yeah, there is going to be a lot of Army vehicles, some barracks, probably not as many people marching around as you would probably expect, and a lot of other things. It's almost like a small little city. So I'll run through just a list of some of the things that are on an Army installation, and it's going to vary from post to post as well, but this will just give you a little bit of a general idea as to what you would find if you were on an Army installation. One of the main things is obviously going to be military vehicles. There's going to be a lot of military vehicles. You're going to have what's called a motor pool, where all the vehicles are stored. Usually have a specific area on post that is kind of like the main motor pool area. For example, on Fort Carson, it's like the Banana Belt, the main street of, where all the motor pools are all lined up in that area. And most of the motor pools on Fort Carson are in that area. There's some in other locations too, but you'll find a lot of them on this one main strip on Fort Carson, and it's kind of very similar at a lot of installations that have this. They have usually their motor pools in one general area. It's just a large area that's got like a maintenance bay, it's got a gate all the way around it, and a lot of vehicles parked in there, different types, wheeled vehicles, tracked vehicles, all sorts of vehicles inside of that motor pool. And this is where a lot of soldiers spend a lot of their time, working on vehicles, doing things, taking off, to go on mission from those motor pools, doing maintenance on the vehicles. All sorts of things are done from inside the motor pool. A lot of times, typically across the street from those motor pools are what are called like S&As or orderly rooms, or a lot of different names that they usually have for them, but usually smaller buildings, and that's where the offices are out of. That's where the first sergeant's office is going to be, that's where the commander's office is going to be, and that's where a lot of other business is done from. Platoon sergeants have offices in there sometimes, and a lot of stuff is done from there, maybe formation in the back or in the front for either, the beginning of the day, maybe even PT formation. They also usually have a specific, area that is closed off in the morning for physical fitness. Each post usually has this designated area that's designated for physical fitness time, and they close off the road. They have guards and everything from usually about 6:30 to 7:30, and so those roads would be closed off to vehicles. Now, additionally, a lot of times still kind of in that adjacent area, sometimes a little farther away, you have barracks, so that's pretty common as well. Barracks can vary though. I mean, you can have really nice ones, you can have really crummy ones. It depends on the post. For the most part, a lot of bases are upgrading their barracks to be more modern, a little bit better living standards. So they're probably going to be like your typical 2 bedrooms with a bathroom and a little common area that you share with your roommate, like I've explained in my single soldier video. But maybe in some rare cases you could have some older style barracks. Like when I first came in the Army, you had these older style ones that were just one big room that you shared with you and 1, 2, 3, 4 other people or whatever, and then down the hall was a bathroom and shower. But for the most part, that would be very rare, or maybe even non-existent. I don't know for say, Army-wide, but I would imagine that's probably pretty rare to have that old school style of barracks. It should be the newer ones now that are almost like a little miniature apartment. So in addition to, of course, there being barracks, which is for the single soldiers, they also have houses on post that are for the married soldiers and for the officers. Now, the lifestyle of living kind of depends. Usually the not so great looking places are usually for the lower enlisted, or maybe the single families that are just a husband and wife with no kids, whereas the much larger ones are usually for higher ranking people, maybe people with larger families, and then you usually have like a really nice home that's usually for like the post commander, for the post sergeant major. So those ones are usually pretty given. A lot of people probably expect that from an Army installation. You're also going to have like churches, so you have some kind of place where if whether you're Catholic or Christian or whatever you might be, there's probably going to be a church for it, for usually the major ones. If you have something obscure, maybe you're Wiccan or something else, you may have to go off base if you want to practice that. You then also have like parks usually. A lot of times, soldiers use it for PT area, but there's also families like utilize the park to take their kids and play. So they have parks usually on a post. You're gonna have probably several fast food places. Usually they come in different areas, as far as some that are standalone ones and some that are involved inside of the actual PX itself. Now the PX is the post exchange. It's different for like Air Force. Air Force is the BX, it's the base exchange, but for Army it's the PX, which is the post exchange. And that is run by a company called AFES. And AFES has the contract on that, so they have other people they partner up with. You have the actual PX, which is, kind of like a small Walmart. Well, not really the grocery side of it, like just electronics, clothing, cologne, perfume, razors, all sorts of stuff, so basically just minus the food as in groceries. They'll probably have small snack stuff, but not actually a grocery store, because that's a separate thing that I'll talk about here in a minute. Inside of the PX, usually have a food court, so it has a lot of different places, usually a pizza place. Burger King has a contract with the Army, so you're pretty much guaranteed to find a Burger King on Army installation. Some other ones will have different things. They'll have, Arby's, they'll have maybe a Popeyes, a KFC. There's different companies that they have also partnerships with. I know Burger King's pretty much one I see all the time though, and then sometimes other posts, it kind of varies if they have an Arby's or if they have a KFC or any of those kind of things. And then sometimes they'll have kind of like their own kind of restaurant slash bar kind of thing on post. Some old school veterans may remember the Officers Club or the Enlisted Club or the NCO Club, and they don't really have that on bases, at least in the United States, really anymore. Sometimes that may still be a thing like in other countries like in Korea or Germany, but in the United States it's not very common anymore for them to have that. They will usually have like maybe a small little bar or a little restaurant that some people may still call it the Soldiers Club, but it's not really the same official thing like you may be used to with the Soldiers Club. It's usually like a little restaurant, a little bar, and any person of any rank can really go inside of it, even families and all that kind of thing. Now, for some bases, they have a theater, and the crazy thing about going to see a movie in a theater on base is that before the movie plays, they actually play the national anthem. And if you're there attending the movie, you stand up for the national anthem, and then the national anthem's done, you sit back down, and then they start the movie previews and the movie. It's kind of a strange experience. So if you do happen to go see a movie on base, expect that. So depending on the size of the base, they may have multiple. They may have one single gas station or little kind of convenience store. They call it the shopette. And inside the shopette will be, just some basic stuff that you would expect from like a 7-Eleven, from a Conoco or something like that, a Shell station. And they have all that stuff inside of there. Some of them usually will have like maybe a Subway, sandwiches, or maybe a Burger King attached to it as well. And the gas is usually a little bit cheaper than what you would get off base. And then some of these gas stations also have like a car wash, or maybe the car wash is nearby or something, but there's also usually a place on post as well that soldiers can take their vehicles to get their car washed. Then there's the commissary. You may have heard that term before, and basically what it is a large grocery store with some different advantages to shopping at the commissary. One of the big ones is that it's tax-free. There's no taxes on the food and everything that is inside the commissary. So sometimes that gets you the food a little bit cheaper than if you were going to Walmart or to some other grocery store off base. So a lot of families like to shop at the commissary. Another very common thing you're gonna have on Army installation is a hospital. Now this is the hospital that families can go to that are married, to a soldier. Soldiers can go to this hospital. They have basically all the stuff a normal hospital would have. It's gonna have like a maternity ward. It's gonna have an urgent care, so they can go to an ER if there's an emergency. And they even have basically an ambulance service as well. Now, kind of along the lines, they have a hospital. They're also going to have a police station or the MP station, as well as a fire station. So the base has their own, police force, which is the MPs. They have their own firefighters. Now, the firefighters are typically civilians, though. They're not usually soldiers. I think the soldiers that do firefighting, I don't know if they help them out, but you usually don't see a lot of soldier firefighters in the Army doing that. I think they do other stuff. I'm not really too sure what the actual soldier firefighters really do, because most of the time when I see the firefighters on a post, they're civilians. But also kind of along with that, with the MPs, you usually have some civilian police officers that work with the MPs as well. So you will usually get a combination of that with the MPs, a combination of soldiers and a combination of civilian police officers. There's also probably going to be several gyms so that soldiers can go work out, maybe even some outdoor tracks. There's usually a lot of places that soldiers can utilize, and even spouses or civilians with like an ID card from the government can utilize, to go work out and do exercises, go run outside, or go indoors and use some of the gym equipment. An Army installation will usually have its own liquor store, as it's called the Class 6. Because Class 6, there's different classes of things, Class 1, Class 2, and everything like that, of supplies, and Class 6 is alcohol. So that's where the Class 6 name actually kind of from the store comes from, is people say they're going to go to the Class 6, well, it's just the on-post liquor store. So then a lot of the other buildings that are on a base are going to be like training facilities, maybe other assets for soldiers. There's a library commonly. There's a lot of other things that are on a base. You essentially can look at it as just a little miniature city. Actually, some bases are pretty big and are a good sized little city. So there you have it. That's kind of a general rundown of what you would expect if you were on an Army installation. Usually civilians can get on post. They usually have a specific gate for that where you would have to present a driver's license, proof of insurance, proof of registration for your vehicle, and then go through a vehicle inspection. And then they would let you on base if you had an actual purpose to do something on base or go see somebody. And then all the other gates are usually restricted for people who are actually ID card holders. So for any of my fellow veterans out there or active duty military, what is it that you like about an Army installation? What places on the installation do you like to take advantage of? And for anybody who's not in the military, never been on an Army installation, if you have some questions, make sure to leave some comments down below and I'll try to help you out, or some of my veteran or active duty veterans will help you out as well. So thanks for hanging out, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Got a couple of videos over here that I highly recommend. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm ThatChrisChaos, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya.